there, I'm Sally Piri. I'm here on the Indonesian resort island of Bali. It's beautiful weather today, and I'm here with the co-founder and group CEO of Grab, Anthony Tan. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much for having me. Really an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here, and thank you for joining me in this program. We both will talk about your company and also Indonesia's B20 presidency. But before that, Anthony will show me a service provided by Grab, and it's about electric vehicles. Okay? Stay tuned on Unlocking. All right. Yeah,
Look forward to it.
Yeah,
Let's go.
okay. Wow, awesome. This is awesome. What a privilege this is. The co-founder of Grab will show me directly.
Yes.
So Anthony, why does Grab choose electric vehicles?
I think the most important force we can work together on is to really drive for technological innovation. And what are the benefits of technological innovation is we can make real impact. And what type of impact do we want to make is we see in this world today there's a lot of climate change issues. And we know that today Grab has done our part by making sure all our offices are renewable, but that's not enough. Majority of our emissions still comes from vehicles. And we have millions and millions of vehicles, right, that we help empower with all the drivers.
Right.
So if we can more and more electrify the fleet, we can actually make an impact using technology
Correct.
to really remove carbon emissions. So today, for example, we are the largest EV ride-hailing fleet in Indonesia, 8,500.
Right.
And thanks to the support of all the customers and the governments, we've been able to do over 100 million kilometers in our EV vehicles, saving over 10,000 tons of carbon emissions. That's a real impact.
Right, right. How many EV does Grab operate in Bali or in Indonesia?
In Indonesia, about 8,500.
Wow. Okay, okay. How about the availability of EV charging stations?
It is true that there is insufficient today. Right? Just now I was talking to the two Ibu who are using Grab bike and or the electric listrik, and they were saying that, look, I wish that we can have more swapping stations. That's a real problem.
Right.
So we all need to come together. We're still in the beginning, early parts of the evolution of the electric EV industry. We need to come together, build more charging stations, more fast charging, more swapping stations, so that we can make two-wheel EV and four-wheel EV a reality, a common sight. Today, you don't see it as a common sight. I mean, you're hearing even the motor engine outside, right? Imagine if it's EV, it's so quiet. Like you can't even hear. You can hear inside the car. It's so quiet. Imagine that, where it becomes a norm. But we need to work together to make charging stations, swapping stations, EV a norm.
Right. Okay. By the way, you are here for the B20 Summit, aren't
Yeah.
you? Yeah. Okay. You're gonna be one of the speakers.
Yes,
Yeah.
very, very honored to speak.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Anthony, Elon Musk and Tony Blair will be among the speakers during the B20 Summit. So what is your expectation from the meeting?
Yeah. For us, it's about how does this meeting drive to real collaboration, great next steps that will go into solving real problems. And I really have to thank President Jokowi, the government of Indonesia, for being such a gracious host. Only by hosting this here, first time in, I believe, in Southeast Asia, we're all so proud as Southeast Asians that it's hosted right here to create a dialogue, to create a bridge of leaders, of global leaders, sometimes at two ends of the spectrum, meeting and talking and being like old friends, not using virtual meetings, but using traditional, good old-fashioned hello, seeing each other and just chatting about real problems, not about my agenda, your agenda, but solving real societal problems. That's how. This is the only way we can solve, the EV cold start problem, right? Because it needs the collaboration between businesses, between governments, between state-owned enterprises, with other private corporation partners. Only by collaborating and by real dialogue of being clear of the problems and saying this is what I can contribute, this is what you can contribute, then we can begin to really solve real societal problems.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you. Well done. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you so much.
All right, and I think we are here already, and
we
we
are.
will continue our discussion inside.
Let's do it.
All right. That's a nice drive. Thank you.
No, it was fun. It's always fun.
Yeah, okay. Let's continue our discussion.
Sure.
Could you share with us some of the highlights in your journey to start your business from a ride-hailing company to a super app now?
Yeah, the highlights that are most memorable. I would never have imagined we would start a company that today we either feed or help people pay or help people get to work. 1 in 20, right, across Southeast Asia.
Correct.
We're impacting. It's just something that we would never have imagined. That's the reality. Recently we celebrated over now 10 billion rides. Right?
All over
Across Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
just recently.
Right.
This is just something, and we would never have thought that we could build a platform as it evolved from a ride-hailing to providing food delivery, to providing payments,
Right.
to providing grocery delivery, to so many other services that we're providing, and also empowering the millions of driver partners and merchant partners we serve, not just in Indonesia, but in 480 plus cities today.
Right.
So I think that's something the team and really has done, and I'm really proud for the team for doing that. Now, I think moving forward, what will we be really proud about? I think we will be really proud if we continue to drive real social impact, whether it's helping the environment with fighting climate change, right, in a positive way, creating much more inclusion, and really through digitization, using our tools and our technology to really help. Literally, that's our mission, to drive Southeast Asia forward by creating economic empowerment for everyone using our technology. So really, moving forward, it's about doubling down on this mission and really helping and serving Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia.
Right. How was it in the beginning? Ooh.
Yeah, it was tough.
Right.
I
could imagine.
starting a business or starting, especially when you think about trying to start a double bottom line company, right? Because most people say, hey, you, Anthony, starting a company is tough enough.
Correct.
Why do you want to start a company and yet at the same time help society and create economic profit? And
Correct.
just having to teach people or educate my team and educate people around me that it is possible to create a company that's double bottom line. In fact, today we're even moving further. We're saying, let's create a triple bottom line company, and that's what we're driving towards.
Okay, I'm gonna ask more a little bit about
Please.
that,
Yeah.
later. So Grab announced this year that the company, like you said, from transitioning from double bottom line
Yes.
to triple bottom line.
Yes.
So can you elaborate about it
Yeah.
more, and why the shift now?
Yeah. Look, for us, it's always been, how do we continuously build a company that's sustainable over the long run to serve this mission, right? Which is driving Southeast Asia forward by creating economic empowerment for everyone. Now, what we also saw, the realities of climate change. I remember the floods in Philippines. I remember it affects the livelihoods of many people, including
only in Philippines, but
exactly
it will
in
affect
Indonesia, in beautiful Bali, right?
Right.
I mean, it's such a beautiful tourist spot. Climate change can affect all of us, all our industries.
Correct.
And what we saw was many of our drivers' livelihoods, our driver partners, their livelihoods were badly affected when there's a flood. They cannot do their work. They cannot go out, deliver food. For us, it's very important that we think about how do you continuously work with partners to fight the negative impacts of climate change so that we can protect the livelihoods of our partners, right? That's why we said we have to transition from double bottom line to triple bottom line.
I see, okay. In relations to that, I want to talk about environment, social and governance, ESG. And could you share with us what are, the broad priorities for Grab in the areas of ESG?
For us, when we think about the broad principles, going back to building long-term sustainable companies, how do we create real social impact? And the way to create real social impact, we think about it in three broad goals. Number one, environment. How do you be a positive change for environment? Number two, inclusion. How do you make sure that no one is left behind? And number three, diversity. How do you provide more and more diverse, whether it's in Grab or outside of Grab, right? And maybe I kick off with climate change. So for us, when we think about the climate change problem, it's a real problem, and I think we all must recognize it. But for us, we're already doing a number of things. Number one, we committed to our goal. By 2040, carbon net neutral. Grab will be carbon net neutral by 2040. But it's easy to just claim a goal. How do we do it? Are we role modeling? So first, all our corporate offices are already running on renewable. Number two, we said, where else are we emitting carbon emissions? We said, today, we're emitting carbon emissions with our fleet, because we have a massive fleet, right? As I shared just now, we have one of the largest number of drivers in Southeast Asia.
Right.
So when that happens, we have to think about, okay, how do we electrify our fleet? So we've done it in a few ways. Number one is we think about, okay, how do we build towards a large EV fleet? Today we have about 8,500. I know it's still very early, but even with 8,500, we're already the largest EV ride-hailing in Indonesia.
Right.
And because of that, and again, thanks to our partners, government partners, and our consumers, they really like choosing Grab Electric. We've seen with that, we now, with our whole fleet, over 100 million kilometers have been done via our electric fleet. Over 10,000 tons of carbon emissions has been saved because it's been running on our electric fleet. So I think that is where we've come in. Now, early days, is there more to do? 100%. That's on climate change. Now, when I think about, say, inclusion, one big component is what are the minorities that haven't been included, whether it's in our marketplace, whether it's in our business. So, interesting fact I learned. Do you know that it's 2 times to 6 times more difficult for someone who is disabled to get a job, to earn a decent living, compared to us? Like life is already tough for us, but can you imagine how tough it is for a person with disabilities?
Especially during the pandemic.
Especially during the pandemic. So we really thought about how to create programs to really help this group of people. And that's why we created a goal. By 2025, we'll have many thousands of people who have disabilities but use and leverage our technology to earn an income. So I'll give you a story that I remember. Chahyo, which is one of our partners, he's a Grab kiosk partner.
Where?
And actually here in Indonesia.
Okay.
And I remember, he shared this story where it basically went from, he really had a hard time, especially during the pandemic, but through Grab kiosk, which is just an app on his phone, he could sell digital services, he could sell, help domestic money remittances, he could sell Pulsar top up, and he earned, so it increased his income multiple by a huge amount.
Wow.
And now because of that, he could finance, he could grow his business.
Right.
He's even helping his son in his goal to become a dentist.
Wow.
So, these are the stories that how do we help not just Chahyo, but how do you create thousands, if not millions, of people who have disability and help them come up the social ladder.
Correct.
And help their families earn a much better living, much better standard of living, much better rice bowl for their home. Right? So that is number 2. Number 3, we really think about diversity. I believe is extremely important because, I've personally felt it when there are sometimes in a room and when there's no woman leaders, we make suboptimal decisions, I'll be honest. And I found that having woman leaders, it is so important. You make better decisions, your meetings, your thoughts, your thought partnership is much better.
You aim to reach 40%
Exactly.
female
Exactly.
leadership, yeah?
Today we're at about 34%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're not there yet, but if you see Indonesia, which is really role modeling, over 50% of our leaders in Indonesia are women.
Oh, wow.
So we want the rest of all the other subsidiaries globally to really learn from that. And how do we eventually reach from 34% to even 50-50 where leaders are all women? I think it's a journey. That's within Grab. But as I think about even beyond Grab, I think about our partners. So, one thing I'm very happy to share is 61% of all the MSMEs that we help today and that we serve in Indonesia are women.
Right.
So our job is not done. We are just, I would say, in the beginning of this journey. We have a lot more to do, and we have to just double down, focus on whether it's diversity, whether it's inclusion or climate change. We have a lot more to do, and we hope to partner and continue doubling down on this mission.
Awesome. All right. So since we are in Bali now, I want to discuss about G20 related issues. Yeah. Indonesia commits to reducing carbon emission by 2030, and the country has recently increased its emission reduction from 29% to 31.89% through its own capabilities, and from 41% to 43.2% with international cooperation. So to do so, the government is determined to prioritize a clean energy transition, including accelerating the electric vehicle transition. So my questions to you is that what are the concrete actions that can be done by the business sector, including Grab, to accelerate the development of sustainable or renewable energy in the country.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're in the beginning of a journey. You look at today, there's what you call a cold start problem, right? There are not enough vehicles. If there's not enough vehicles, people don't want to build charging stations or swapping stations, right? And then, but if there's not enough of this, then there won't be enough vehicles because they said it's too inconvenient and they can't get charged.
Right.
So what we did was we said, it's okay, let's break that cold start problem with partners, whether it's we partner the Indonesian government, whether it's partner SOEs like PLN or Pertamina, with Gasits, with other companies. We basically invested in 8,500 vehicles. So that gets it going. But I think more importantly, it's how we make it possible for even, because it's more expensive.
Correct, yeah.
So because we have Grab rentals, we basically created a rental program. And I'll quickly share, I just met Ibu Yusli.
Right.
She's a single mother, 2 children. During the pandemic, her motorbike got taken away from her. And she had to work as a helper for 4 homes, right? So really tough from morning to night. Because we could create that rental for the electric Grab bike, she does between 12 to 15 hours a day. She can do 28 jobs a day. She now makes 5 million rupees a day. She has the flexibility of sending her children to school and bringing them home. She's so happy. I mean, just now I was talking to her when she was crying, I was crying. It was just a life-changing story. So that's the power. If we can help and create and make it more affordable. And she's so smart. She brings 2 batteries to her house every day and then charges them. Over 5 hours is full, so that even during the day she's ready, so she can work 15 hours because she's swapping all the time. And that's her ingenuity, that's her hard work, and really it's her, right? It's 100% her. All we're doing is just providing it easier for someone who doesn't have capital to be able to do this really well, and she has embraced it. So how do we as an industry with partners, government partners, leveraging and partnering with SOEs, with private industry, help and create millions of Ibu Yusli all across Indonesia?
Yeah. Okay, another G20 priority under Indonesia's presidency includes digital transformation, and this is your expertise, digital technology. So what's your company's role to support the development of digital technologies that can bring positive impact on the socio-economic, including in rural areas?
Yes, you really hit especially in rural areas, is actually very tough. I think number one, you think about the concept and the principle of leverage. So for example, in many rural areas, people may only have a smartphone. Some may not even have a smartphone. So we created a program to finance a smartphone. Then they have a smartphone. What can they do with the smartphone? With an app like Grab Kiosk or with OVO, they can start earning money. They can start making they can become a UMKM with us, right? They can start really a SME or MSME, right? So leveraging the smartphone with data, you can do business already from your house, right? Or let's say in other rural areas, they only have a motorbike. Then how do we help that person really leverage that motorbike to become a Grab bike driver? And earn income. Or I'll think about recently I went to visit in Jakarta, one of the Pasar Tradisional. And Ibu Siska, I remember, I went to visit her. During the pandemic, her little stall, right, about this size, it was so hard because people couldn't, there was lockdown, there was quarantine, it was such a tough life for so many people, including her. But she embraced GrabMart. She used GrabMart. She used our marketing advertising tools to get customers. Today, 90% of her sales are online. GrabMart and our Grab merchant helps her make 15,000 US dollars a month.
Wow.
And we've helped many thousands of these wet market merchants, pasar
Right.
traditional,
Right.
all across Indonesia. So I think, how do we continue to leverage these tools, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's Grab bike, whether it's a motorbike, whether it's a little stall,
Right.
and use our technology to do business, to help and alleviate and uplift all these UMKM or MSMEs across Indonesia.
Right. Anthony, I'm just wondering, you met Ibu Siska, you met Cahyo directly, you came to them. So I want to know what's their reaction when the big boss, came to their house and then asked questions, this and that. I just want to know what's their reaction.
Well, just now, I'll tell you the most recent one, which
Right.
was just today, just meeting two ladies, two single mothers, Ibu Yusli inclusive. I mean, it's extremely heartwarming. They keep thanking me, and I keep thanking them, and it is probably the most motivating. I literally told this to my team just now. I said, I don't care who I meet at B20, I don't care what happens, but just meeting these two ladies has made my trip already.
Wow.
It has made me so excited to do what we do, and my team are all highly motivated because of hearing the actual impact in
Right.
their lives, in their children's lives,
Right.
because of what Grab has done for them.
Wow.
That is probably the most single biggest motivational source for me. So they keep saying sangat terima kasih,
Right.
but I keep thanking them because
Right.
they are my source. I'm actually benefiting because they have become my biggest source of motivation.
Wow. Okay, since I'm talking with a
Yes.
leader, a prominent business leader now, so I want to talk about projection, about
Yes,
targets, yeah?
yes.
I'd like to know your views on target and projection with a global recession possible next
Yes.
year, yeah? How are you preparing your business, and then also how will you help your driver and merchant partners be ready for it?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'm not prominent business leader.
Well, you are.
I try to think about our role. My raison d'être or my calling is to be a servant leader and to serve Southeast Asia, right? And Grab is just one platform to continue serving. When a time when there's inflation, when there's recession fears, people have a even tighter with their money, right? In fact, I want to ask all companies to really think the opportunity is there's a huge group of people at the bottom of the pyramid that is underserved, that usually are forgotten because they're not profitable to serve. But if we can invent and create new ways to serve them, you can actually make economic profit,
Right.
and create new opportunities and serve a new rising consumer class. And the better they do, the better society does, the better for your business.
Right.
So I think number one, how did we do it? So we think about, for example, we launched something called Minder, which is a minimum delivery fee, right?
Ah, okay.
How do we do that so that it becomes more affordable for people to order
Correct.
Grab food, right? We think of ways of how do we use technology to minimize the driver waiting time at our merchant partners, because if they wait there for a long time, they get upset, the merchant partner, the restaurant gets upset with them. So we try to find ways to minimize their waiting time, because that waiting time, if used wisely, they can earn even more income by delivering more food or by delivering more people, right? So we really use technology, whether it's our mapping technology, whether it's our fulfillment and dispatch technology, to help them become more productive by saving them their time. So their driver earnings continue. We drive prices to make it more affordable during this difficult time. So I think that is the mental model we all as leaders need to take if we want to really go in hand and not just survive but thrive through this global headwinds.
Right, okay. And in relations to that, how do you strike a balance between serving your purpose and then gaining profit?
I think first of all, purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive. One thing I've been very blessed with is because we started a company that was so founded on purpose, that we are a purpose-driven company, we've actually been able to attract some incredible talent, right? And whether it's in Indonesia, globally. Because I'm sure you know this, many in the youth today, they don't want to just work for money anymore. They want to work for something that they truly believe in. Can they get behind the cause or not?
Correct.
And when people can get behind the cause, they fight. They really fight. Correct. Because they believe in that cause. So actually, because of that purpose, we've been able to attract missionaries, not mercenaries. And that has actually driven the company to the next level of invention, the next level of innovation. And it's actually much more sustainable that way. Right. Number two, I remember talking to one of the fathers of venture capital globally, just a few days ago, actually just 2 days ago. And he said one thing, he said, look, the realities of the world is, you look at the news the past 2 weeks in crypto and all that's happened. And he said, Anthony, entrepreneurs around the world, business leaders around the world must remember that a legal code, that means meeting the legal bar in itself is insufficient.
Right.
We need to meet the moral code, the moral bar. And that actually, in his, he's a senior guy, very experienced. And he said, over the many decades of investing, he's seen the best business leaders, the best entrepreneurs, actually who live by a high moral code, actually have a much more sustainable business over the long run. So purpose and profit can actually live side by side for the long run.
All right, okay. Well, Anthony, I don't want to end this discussion without asking you a question on some solution. So how can governments in this region and the private sector can work together to promote innovation and drive growth amid the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think number one is, if businesses think they can do things themselves, I think it will be very tough, if not sometimes impossible. In fact, Grab has taken the opposite approach, which is of partnering, of leveraging and standing on the shoulders of giants. So one giant I would say is the Indonesian government. Today we partnered the Indonesian government, in fact it's called the Ministry of Cooperatives, to help us bring on thousands and thousands of UMKM, of MSMEs. Right? They helped us reduce the friction to onboard many of these merchants, especially during COVID pandemic. That is the power of partnership. And working in governments to reduce friction for the masses, the UMKMs, the MSMEs, which is the backbone of Indonesia or the backbone of Southeast Asian economies. So how can we help them rise? I think that's number one. Really partner to reduce all the friction. I think number two is, I think about, for example, the EV problem. The EV problem has a cold start problem, right? Because if there are not enough EVs, people are worried about that they won't build the charging stations for it.
Correct.
Or the other way around. If there's too many, or if there is too few charging stations, nobody wants to buy EVs. So I think the governments and us, and whether it's PLN, Pertamina, VR, Gasits, all can partner on how to solve these big societal problems together. by collaborating, by using dialogue and fostering dialogue like at B20 to come together and say, hey, these are the problems that needs to be solved. How can we solve them? And we can totally find a way, maybe not totally today, but at least start the journey of the steps of how to build a large EV fleet, how to solve this cold start problem by investing upfront with the EV charging network to really move forward. And I think the third, I would say, is creating sandboxes. So sometimes governments are afraid, hey, what if, example, the EV experiment doesn't work? It's okay, create a small sandbox, whether it's in Bali, wherever it may be. But the goal is, if you create a sandbox, it limits the downside. In the worst case, it's just a failure in a sandbox. But if it's successful, this sandbox is successful, this experiment is successful, then after you can scale it across Indonesia, across Southeast Asia, across the world. So by co-creating with private companies like us, with technology enablers like us, governments can create sandboxes that we together can solve these big problems.
All right, great. Once again, Anthony Tan, thank you for joining me in this program. Thank you for your valuable views.
I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for your company's contribution in the development of Indonesia. And also, last but not least, I hope you will have a fruitful discussion during the B20 Summit.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, you will be one of the speakers.
That's right, on Monday. Very excited for it, actually.
Wow, okay. All the best and have a nice one.